Radio, and this is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in southeast London, where the weather is, it's, let's say, reasonably, it is cold, but it's not freezing like we've had in the past, so that's good. And with me is, as usual, Gregory. Gregory, how are you doing, and how is the weather where you are?
One is fine, but
Good.
It is cold and dark.
And dark as well. Okay, welcome. Dear listeners, this is the Spiritual Discussion Program, as I said. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth. The Grail Message by Uprishin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is love unconditional? Is love unconditional? You can join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uprishin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uprishin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic for discussion tonight is love unconditional? Is love unconditional? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And then there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Now, I always like to look up the meaning of the words in the topic in the dictionary. So again, the topic is love unconditional? So the first key word I will say there is love. And I looked up the meaning in the dictionary, and I got two definitions. First one, it says an intense feeling of deep affection. And to give an example of that, babies fill parents with feelings of love. So let me repeat that. The meaning of the word love is an intense feeling of deep affection. Gregory, how good is this meaning for our discussion?
Well, thanks very much. That is only a partial effect of what love is. So it is helpful but not very useful.
Okay, so let's try the second meaning, which is the dictionary gives us, which is a great interest and pleasure in something. And they give example of this one, his love for football. So a great interest and pleasure in something. How is this one, Gregory?
Again, it is a pointer, but these are not, strictly speaking, appropriate.
Okay, so I think I'm going to have to ask you, what would give a better definition, or what words can we use to give a better concept of love?
With regards to love, one must seek for something which is holistic. And the nearest one could find is that of welfare. One concerns oneself with another's welfare, welfare in deeds, welfare in thoughts, and welfare in spirit. Then that becomes binding.
I'm just making note of that. Welfare in deeds,
welfare in thoughts, and welfare in spirit.
In spirit. Okay. I think we're going to have to reflect on that one as well, a bit more. All right. Let's carry on. Then the next word I have is unconditional. And here in the dictionary it says not subject to any condition. So I had to now, I must say, I have to look up the word conditions as well then. So, they say not subject to any condition. So what does mean by conditions? So I found out in condition, it says the state of something with regard to its appearance, quality, or working order. For example, the wiring is in good condition. So let's look at this word. Let's look at the word condition, Gregory, before we say unconditional. So it's saying for condition, the state of something with regard to its appearance, quality, or working order. I don't know, how is that useful for us, Gregory, if it's any use?
These are more like adjectives describing what condition is, whereas what you yourself may be seeking would be something which is concrete. In that case, like a noun. So
Okay.
these are helpful, but one really cannot make use of them in the context in which one should use them.
Okay, I'm going to. There's a second meaning for the condition, so I will read that one as well. So this is. It says, the circumstances or factors affecting the way in which people live or work, especially with regard to their well-being. So that's a good one. So it says the circumstances or factors affecting the way in which people live or work, especially with regard to their well-being. So, what do you say about this one, Gregory?
These are remnants that may be utilized, but doesn't give that deep meaning that we are searching for.
Okay. Let us. So, and remember, the actual topic is love unconditional, not a condition. So, unconditioned says not subject to any conditions. And the example they gave is unconditional surrender. So, there are no conditions in regards to love. That's what we are saying, or asking, let's say. Is love unconditional? But let me go to my another source when I'm doing the research for our show. I know it's AI, but at least I think it's a bit more coherent in their meaning. So let's see what it says. So I looked up the words unconditional love, and this is what I found. Unconditional love is loving someone without judgment, conditions, or expectation of return, focusing on their inherent worth and happiness. Like a parent loving a child through a tantrum, not the behavior itself. There's a lot more there, actually. Let me just go on that one, Gregory. Let's just go through that. So the first part of this definition of unconditional love, it says loving someone without judgment, conditions, or expectation of a return, focusing on their inherent worth and happiness. Like a parent loving a child through a tantrum, not the behavior itself. So, Gregory, what do you say about this meaning, I would say?
These are descriptions which sometimes are helpful. However, even the word itself, unconditional, gives a picture of without restraint, no precondition, without restraint. A more intuitive meaning could be unbounded. Unbounded.
Okay.
But another deeper meaning one could, without restriction.
Right, without restriction. Okay, we will consider these what we discuss in that way then. Now, I'm going to leave the rest of it out for that moment from Google's AI's words. I want to move on now. Okay. Now, earlier in the dictionary, Gregory, we were told that love is about affection, which is partially, you said, is, let's say a pointer. It gives partially. And then the other one was, well, that was, I would say, not so good. It was a love for football. So the example they gave, which is a great interest or pleasure in something. So again, you said that was a bit of a pointer, but not really deep level that we would like to discuss in our show. And then you gave your definition for love, which is concerning welfare in deeds, in thoughts, and in spirit. So that giving a more broader world to look, area to look at, than these other things which seem to be a bit earthly, let's say, or let's say narrow. Let's use the word narrow rather than earthly. Now, so I'm still trying to get a concept of love, which we can think about or look at. So, and again, I found in my research, they said there are 4 types of love: affection, friendship, eros. Eros, I think, is actually, I didn't check that very thoroughly, so let me leave that one out. And then charity. So there's all these, Gregory, we are seeing that love has works in so many ways. In our relationships, we could, in our passion for something, as I say, even they use friendship, where of course they may not be your partner, but there has a closeness with your friends, so you could say a love for your friends in that way. And then they give example of charity, which I would say helping people, either it's your fellow people in your own neighborhood or even beyond that neighborhood. So not directly your relatives and friends, but beyond that. So that's another way love, you could say, manifests. So that is much broader than what we have set up to, let's say, at the beginning. Now, so Gregory, is there something, how can I say? Okay, let me start this way, Gregory. So let's say there's the Almighty God's love, there's human love, and let's say animals also show love, each in their own way, let's say. And our topic is love unconditional? When you think of the Almighty, you think that His love is unconditional, Almighty Father, the Creator, and in His love He has created us, and put us in a world where things are provided, even if, let's say, we don't always have success in our lives, but there's always something being provided. So, Gregory, can we look at that one? Is the Almighty Father's love, is that unconditional? Is that, because let's say that would be the highest one.
It is The love of the Almighty is not unconditional. It is conditional. The conditions are in accordance with the laws that have been woven into creation, and these laws as such help to guide the human personality that is striving to mature. But such maturity must be in accordance with the laws through which the human spirit germ came into existence. So it is not unconditional. Unconditional as such means it could be arbitrary. It is not arbitrary. It is in accordance with those laws which have been woven into creation from the earliest beginning.
Thanks for that answer there, Gregory. And maybe some people are surprised to hear what you said there, thinking, oh, the Almighty is giving unconditional love. But you're saying, no, it is not unconditional, it is actually conditional. And that is because we have to, let's say, that there are divine laws or natural laws, and we humans must work with those natural laws or comply with those natural laws or divine laws, and then let's say his love can manifest through that. If we don't obey or follow these natural laws or divine laws, then you could say there are certain consequences which are not, let's say, good for us. So yes, because what you're pointing to, Gregory, there is that, people think of love as something uplifting and how can I say, always things good only, and not that. So whatever, let's say, situation we human beings experiencing, God will save us from that any situation. But you are saying, from what you have said there, Gregory, it's not like that. You can only be saved if we follow or obey these divine or natural laws. Am I right there?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. So yes, as I said, I just wanted to talk a bit more on this because, as I said, some people may be surprised thinking, no, God is always giving his love, meaning that any situation we can be saved from it. But it's not like that. So this is something we really need to wake up, you can say, to be aware. Now, so Gregory, we also as human beings have free will, so we can exercise our love, in the way we wish to express ourselves, and like, for example, we give let's say a typical example is when a mother and her child, the way the mother acts, it's always like as if there's an unconditional love for the child, no matter what the child does. So Gregory, that seems to, how can I say, go against the love which God gives to us, which is not unconditional but conditional. So with the way the mother acts in the way I described to the child, is that an unconditional love that I thought it is unconditional, but maybe because no matter what the child does, the mother always loves the child and take care of the child. So is there something wrong with that?
It is the interpretation which has been given to what has been observed between mother and child. It is that interpretation which has been erroneous. And because such interpretation is one-sided. As the child has come into the earth through the parents, through the mother, you find a scenario where the mother has taken upon herself to care. That means the welfare of the child until the child reaches the age of maturity. Prior to reaching the age of maturity, the child relies on the parents for guidance. Therefore, you find that it is not unconditional, but you find the scenario where an individual has taken upon herself to mold the path. That molding the path is not done in an arbitrary fashion, for she herself will have to follow the laid down rules to ensure that the child matures in accordance with the responsibilities she has taken. So these things are not arbitrary. They are not just according to the whims and caprices of mothers or parents. There is much more that is involved in these matters.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for what I would say is clarifying that concept of, or let's say, wrong concept, which human beings have adopted when they're thinking about mother and child, of saying it is unconditional love, because they have not really thought deeply what is actually going on there. It's almost like this blindly, or they have a, let's say, a thinking or an opinion that that's the relationship should be between mother and child, of unconditional love. And where there is somehow a condition there, it seems they overlook that. Because when we say a mother is looking after the welfare of the child, well, the child can misbehave, isn't it? And if we just let it go, then the child will carry on misbehaving. And that's not how a child is supposed to be, or even an adult is supposed to be. And how will it turn into an adult, or let's say a well-behaved adult, if it is not being taught as a child how to live, in a proper way? So that's when you think about that, then you will see, no, there are conditions. The mother just doesn't ignore the misbehavior. I think, Gregory, what I see there is the mother is more forgiving, to the child than maybe an adult, in the sense of it gives the child more leeway to, go wrong, you can say. And I'm going to ask a little bit more on this in a minute, Gregory, about this. But before I do that, I just want to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushing. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grail-message.com. www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is love unconditional? Is love unconditional? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And the other way you can contact us is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail Message, space. The topic of our show tonight is love unconditional. And after the show, the show ends at 8 p.m. tonight, you can listen to a recording of this show, also on YouTube, with the same words in the search box, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, is love unconditional? That's the topic for tonight. And of course, you can listen to the recording of our other previous shows, also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.fm/radio/bless radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, we were talking about mother, the love between the mother and the child, and you said that this, calling it that love unconditional, was not correct, or let's say, as looked, let's say, one-sidedly, maybe, and only in one way, and in reality, no, there is condition there. So what I'm seeing, there's a theme now. We are seeing that love is conditional, not unconditional, as people may have been presuming, and mainly I will say because they haven't thought deeply enough to what exactly happens with, between love between parents and so on. So let us look at another thing now, Gregory. Animals, they also express love, and there was actually a program I was watching, like a nature program, and animals are always being hunted by other animals. There's always a danger there, and the thing is, of course, animals have their also children, but the children, and of course the parents, I know in the animal world there's all variety of ways how the animal parents bring up their children. Some almost leave them alone soon after they're born, others take care of them a little while, because it seems that from child to adulthood is quicker in animals than it takes for the human beings. However, the parents do take care of their young, but then, as I say, other animals are hunting these, and they're looking for the weakest thing they can, eat or hunt, and it's normally the children who are the weakest ones. So when I was watching this TV show, nature program, let's say there was a lioness with maybe 6 cubs, and they were crossing a river, and then suddenly a crocodile or alligator went after them, and the mother lioness, that is, was crossing with the children, these cubs, but not, how can I say, she can't really take care of all of them, because each one has to swim themselves across or walk across this river. And unfortunately, or whatever way you want to look at it, the crocodile was able to snap one of the cubs. And they were then all the lioness and the other cubs were looking back to look at what was happening to this cub. They didn't interfere. They just, it seemed like there was no chance for them to save this cub. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, Gregory, do the animals show unconditional love, or also is there also a conditional love?
You yourself are litters was picked up. The mother would have gone back to retrieve. But then what happens to the other two? So love is not unconditional and has never been unconditional. The love which is expressed, which one may refer to in our case, in which in this forum one is considering that of spiritual love, that is concerned about the welfare of the individual in deeds, the welfare in thoughts, and also the welfare in spirit. The duties and tasks which are associated in deeds, in thoughts, and in spirit, it is these duties and tasks which are most of the time interpreted erroneously. Therein lies the problem. For in creation, you will find that motion is a law. Things must keep developing, there must be progress. And those who are of spirit must keep developing themselves. At the beginning, when they incarnate on earth, they are protected. But when they arrive at the age of maturity here on earth, then they take that protection on their personal shoulders They care for themselves. Love is and has remained only about the welfare. It has nothing to do with the sentiments which many show.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this answer and the explanation you're giving us. I think, like you said, it's sentimental. You become sentimental, and then that, how can I say, misleads us to really see love for what actually it is. Like you say, it's for our welfare. And the example I gave with the animal concerning the lioness in her cubs, there's something called reality. There's a crocodile, and you got, let's say, 5-6 cubs, and you're crossing the river. You can't save, they didn't see that crocodile, of course, otherwise they wouldn't have crossed the river at that point. And that's, and then it happened that the crocodile showed itself. And how can you save, out of 5 or 6, it's like you're already keeping an eye on the other cubs. So if one is being attacked, you leave that one, he will go for another one. So it was like a big dilemma, and then in the end you have to just let it be, that one of them cannot be saved, unfortunately. And then so these things happen. You could say these things happen in life, and it shows. Doesn't mean that the lioness doesn't love that one that died, or got killed, eaten by the crocodile. So yes. Now, Gregory, I want to look at something that Jesus said. He said, love your neighbor as yourself. I'm just going to find the actual quote in the Bible, so I make sure that I read that out first. It is somewhere in Matthew, I believe. I'm just trying to find the actual quote, so give me just 1 second, please. Just want to find it here. Okay, this is Mark. It's Mark, actually, chapter 12, verse 31. And I think it was coming from a question that somebody asked Jesus. I'm just going to go there. Let me just find that exactly. The greatest commandment is titled. Now one of the scribes had come up and heard their debate. Noticing how well Jesus had answered them, he asked him, which commandment is the most important of all? Jesus replied, this is the most important. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is, love your neighbor as yourself. No other commandment is greater than these. So actually, Gregory, I'm going to start with the first one that Jesus said, which is, love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind, and all your strength. Now, Gregory, you talked about welfare. I don't think we humans can have a say to love, show, let's say, concern ourselves too much with the welfare of the Almighty Father, since He Himself is the Creator. So what, in that context, what is it being meant that we should love our God?
Well, Again, many thanks for this, for bringing this up. For there are intrinsic values in that which Christ has mentioned. From out of the Almighty streams blessings, and only he or she who resonates aright in accordance with the laws of creation, only that individual is able to receive of these blessings. Therefore, you find it is imperative that the individual, that means the human personality, the human spirit personality, must strive to open itself to be able to attract these blessings that flow from out of the Almighty. That is the first part. And then, having done that, having received these blessings, the individual should make use of the blessings and stream it out to others, not only for its own welfare, but for the welfare of others, for the welfare in spirit, for the welfare in thoughts, and for the welfare in deeds. Hence that admonition to watch and to pray. So all these are connected, and Christ would not have mentioned these things if it were not necessary. To repeat or to recap, that which he meant was the opening of the individual to receive the blessings that stream out from on high, and in making use of it, to stream it out to others for their welfare, for their happiness, for their joy. Basically, that is what all that you have just read out mean.
Thank you so much for that, Gregory. So it was meant for us to receive, how can I say, to enable us to receive the blessings from the Almighty Father. We have to, the love is that by opening ourselves to receive it from the Almighty, rather than we giving something to the Almighty. So I got that. And then once we do that, we can enjoy those blessings as they're meant for us. So thank you. Now the one I wanted was I was going to before, but I'm doing it now. Is the second commandment that Jesus mentioned there, which was that love your neighbor as yourself. And people, treat your neighbor as yourself. In a way, it makes common sense. But Gregory, can you help us to understand this more?
We just discussed that the individual that has been able to receive of the blessings that stream out needed to make use of these blessings for itself, and subsequently also radiate it through its activities to others, such that they themselves will also partake of the blessings. In receiving these blessings, the individual had to open up itself. In radiating these blessings to others in spirit or in thoughts or in deeds, that shows an activity in which they themselves, their self, their inner self, is working in accordance with the will of the Almighty, in the sense that he or she who receives of these blessings must make use of it and then pass it on to others. The very simple example one may consider in the case of music, as you find in the arts, in which a musician or an artist compose some music. That composition is something that it has been able to perceive and has brought it together. In the process of composition, it gives the individual so much joy and happiness. However, the musician, having composed this music, does not hide this music within himself. He lets it out, and it brings untold joys to many. That is what it means. He or she who receives must make use of it and then radiate it out to others. That falls in line with the theme, one for all and all for one.
Thank you so much, Gregory. Now there's another words of Jesus, which let me just before I just want to get the quote. Yes. So this one is from Matthew chapter 5, verse 43, and it's okay. Now I can see. It says, "Love your enemies," and this is from the Sermon on the Mount, and which is a quite long sermon. But let me just find this appropriate. Here we go. I found it now. So this is in Matthew chapter 5, in verse 43 to 48. So let me read that. Of course, it's Jesus speaking. So you have heard that you have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends the rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. So I'm just going to read this again. This is from Matthew chapter 5, verse 43 to 48, and it's from the Sermon on the Mount, and this one is titled, Love for Enemies. You've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Gregory, this is, how can I say, although we've heard these words, it's still very striking when Jesus says, love your enemies. I mean, how can we understand what is the reason for that? I mean, what can be, yes, how we can behave this way?
The so-called enemies are those people who provide the opportunity for the individual to develop resistance. They provide the opportunity to come out with features which are deep within them in the protection of themselves. At the same time, one must ask, has it ever occurred that one can become its own worst enemy? And in scenarios like that, does it mean that the individual does not love himself? In that particular scenario, how does the individual handle it when it knows it has been its own worst enemy? You'll find for many, the only way they go around it is to calm down and reflect. Just as the individual is able to calm down and reflect on its errors when it has behaved as its own worst enemy, then the individual can now understand when it is said, love your enemies. For only, in many cases, only when there is danger, only then do you have the individual developing the resistance, getting into activities which will awaken all that is noble within it. Whereas in the past, many an individual is asleep.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for this picture you've given us there. We can be our own enemy. That's maybe we don't think like this, then, and like you said, the enemy, when we do have enemy, they are in a way they're good for us to challenge us so that you can grow from the challenge. And even I was going to say, this enemy is also just like you, a human being. They might be acting as an enemy to you, but then, let's say they have gone astray, whatever they're doing against you. But you can also be behaving like them before, maybe, or maybe in the future you could behave like them. So it shows that you're no different to your enemy, in quotes. So don't think of this in quotes enemy, somebody different from you. And now you already pointed out that we can be our own enemy anyway. So if that's the case, what other humans are even not as, how can I say, difficult as what we are when we are facing our own self. So thank you for pointing that out. Now, what I'm seeing, Gregory, there's, justice. We must, we can't, you can, of course, we all need love, but there has to be also justice. And when you started to say that love is conditional, not unconditional, and there are divine laws in which we have to work with, which, and then you think of law, you think also of justice. So love and justice work together. Not, you could say, oh, one day it's love and another day is justice, like as if they're two separate things. And you could say, if you are, in quotes, get away with some bad thing, it is love. It's like you're being forgiven. And then another day you're caught doing something wrong, and it's the justice, you know, involved in that. It's as if there are two separate things happening, you know. So it's like according to our sentimental behavior, as you were mentioning earlier as well, if something good happens, oh yes, we are happy about it in a sentimental way, but when something bad happens, oh, it's so sad and it's undeserved. So it means good things are deserved, and the bad things, not every time of course, we can say, oh, it's undeserved, we didn't mean have that. And that shows us that we can pick and choose, or at least we think we can pick and choose if something we like it or we don't like it. Actually, before I ask you a next question, Gregory, let me just remind the listeners that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Aprushing. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is love unconditional? Is love unconditional? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you will see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which is love unconditional? And after the show, which ends at 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to a recording of this show, which is also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the same words in the search box, which are Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space, Grail Message, space, is love unconditional? And of course, you can listen to a recording of our other previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/radio/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, I wanted to look at, like I said, love and justice. We seem to separate them as if they're completely different things. So please, can you help us, do love and justice work together, or are they separate? Because we don't seem to associate them as something working together.
one will find that within the weavings in nature, in creation, the blessings or power is disseminated. That which has been given in blessing in accordance with the laws of creation, that power which has been given to the individual, that power is given out of love. Out of love for the individual to make use of it, of all the opportunities to mature and come or to become subsequently a self-conscious human personality in creation, in nature, or in the world of matter. Now, something has been given. That which has been given, the blessings and the power, those who have received it need to make use of that which has been given in accordance with the will that has made it possible. Therein lies the justice, that which has been given to you, you need to make use of it to bring benefit to you. Otherwise, why was it given to you? Just to waste it? So justice comes in when the demand now arises. What have you done with that which has been passed on to you for your own self-development? If that individual hasn't made use of these opportunities, of the power, then it has to answer for it. So on the one hand, there is the love which gives in accordance with the laws of creation, and on the other hand, there is the justice which says you must make use of that which has been given to you so as to mature in accordance with these laws. So you find that they are connected. It's like having one coin with two different faces. So love and justice, they are one and the same. You do not expect that things be given to you and you do nothing or you waste it. For the individual must take on responsibilities for the opportunities that has been granted it to mature.
Thank you, Gregory, for your answer there. While you've been talking, a listener has posted on the Blessed Chat room chat box, I will say some point they're making. So I'm going to just read it out. They're making a reference to the Bible. There's some verse in the Bible, so I would like to read that as well, so we can look at it very well. So this listener has put this point. It says, the real enemy is not a human being in Ephesians 6, verses 12 to 13. The powers and principalities in the high places are constantly influencing the human being, because we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. Jesus also wants us to love our enemies, in love to love our enemies. These two must be evaluated, because truly speaking, the weapon against evil is love. Okay. I'm trying to understand as I'm reading it out. So, Gregory, I know you don't have the benefit of reading out these messages, so I'm not going to repeat them, but go slowly. Actually, first, before I do that, I would like to go to the reference, the listener who has put this point to this is in the Bible, the reference in the Bible he's put, he or she, is Ephesians chapter 6, verses 12 to 13. So let's see what it says in that chapter, in those verses. Let me go on. I found it already. I'm going to read that now. So this is Ephesians chapter 6, as I say, and it actually, the reference is, or the start of that section, it says, it's titled the armor of God. And I'm going to start actually a little bit earlier than the reference a person made. So it's verse 10. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you have done everything to stand, stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. I'm going to stop there. I hope, Gregory, you were able to follow these words of this from the Bible. As I said, we didn't have an opportunity to look at it before. So, Gregory, let me go to the point what the person has made first. So, yes, basically the point is that the enemy of the human being is not the fight against flesh and blood, but it's the powers and principalities in high places that are constantly influencing the human being. So, Gregory, the question is our fight not with ourselves, meaning flesh and blood, but with higher powers, maybe let's even say the devil, or Lucifer, as we know him as well. Maybe our fight is with the Lucifer or his and his friends. Let me say it that way. Is that the real fight for us?
Well, thanks again for this particular question. One thing which has been omitted in these writings is that of the free volition of the human personality, the free will of the individual to make decisions. So you have the scenario that there may be out there evil volitions which have come out of people, which are strengthened through their activities close to Lucifer. You find evil volitions are strengthened. However, the individual retains the free will to make decisions, not only in deeds, but also in thoughts and also in one's intuitions, which is spiritual decisions. As the human personality makes the decision to go towards evil or not to go towards evil, so shall the individual then fare in its journey through creation. So it cannot now turn round and start accusing Lucifer or accusing others. Each individual has that capacity which is intrinsic to it to make decisions. That is the innate capability of the free will which that individual possesses. So as they themselves have decided, so will be the repercussions if in their yearning, in their longing, they strive after that which is noble, which is pure. They, in reciprocal activities, will be drawn towards that which is noble, towards the spiritual realm from whence or from where they themselves started. If, however, they, in their decisions, go after that which is ignoble, which is dark, and which is heavy, then in all naturalness, they will become heavy and go towards that which is closer to Lucifer. It should not forget that the individual has to make a decision whenever it is tempted. It has to make a decision through its innate ability in thoughts or in its intuition. So all that has been explained in Ephesians only points to the path that the individual has the free will to proceed towards the higher realms or towards the depths.
Thank you for that, Gregory. There's a second part to this, what the listener has, how can I say, point they have made. It's like, yes, Ephesians tells us that, and then there's a way, which how Jesus advised us or commanded us, is to love our enemies, meaning that this well, let me just repeat exactly the words of the listener. It says, Jesus also wants us in love to love our enemies. These two must be evaluated because, truly speaking, the
particular scenario draws the individual upwards in a step-by-step manner. Many a time, because of the indolence of the human personality, it does nothing to strengthen it. But in times of want, in times of danger, you find many an individual turns away from the strength which it thinks it possesses and asks for help because it is in dire need. That is when it said, when the need is greatest. When the need is greatest, the power of the Lord is nearest to the individual. It only needs to look up. When you consider these things, many times people become lazy when there's nothing to challenge them. But when that which comes, which will challenge all their inner strengths in their thoughts and in their deeds, you find they wake up. So these so-called enemies, the example that one had given is that one must not forget that one can become its own personal enemy because of its laziness. And again, the words of Christ now become very pertinent, that that scenario where there is the watchfulness, watch and pray. That means to be on the alert, to be vigilant. To be vigilant requires so much effort. Alertness requires so much effort. It is an activity. To be vigilant spiritually, to be vigilant in one's thoughts, one's thinking, and indeed vigilance in accordance with the laws of creation, not just mere vigilance. These are the weapons that the individual needs in order to win through whatever battle comes its way. So the words which, was it not Paul who wrote the Ephesians, letters to the Ephesians, become very clear. It refers to, again and again, to watch and to pray. You find that the letters which are written are put in different contexts to awaken the innate abilities of the individual.
Thanks very much, Gregory. Even if we sometimes look like we are repeating the question or bringing the question in a different way, it's good to hear these things again, because sometimes things don't land within us in the first go, and we need to be things have to be repeated to us. In a way, you can look at how many messengers of God have come on this earth to show us the way, and despite all that, we keep messing around, and God has, in His mercy, has allowed to send us more, to put us on the right path again. So that's the love that is being shown there. Not, of course, there should be some condition in that, I guess, but it shows that we are given mercy and a chance to redeem. So, in fact, my next question, Gregory, is concerning forgiveness. So I would like to. There's a reference I found, or let's say something from the Bible, which I'd like to read again, and this is Matthew chapter 18, verse 21 to 35, and it's titled "The Parable of the Unmerciful Servant." A parable of the unmerciful servant. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, "Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times?" Jesus answered, "I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times." Therefore, the kingdom of God is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 bags of gold was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay, the master ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had to be sold to repay the debt. And this servant fell on his knees before him. "Be patient with me," he begged, "and I will pay back everything." The servant's master took pity on him and cancelled the debt and let him go. But when that servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 silver coins. He grabbed him and began to choke him. "Pay back what you owe me," he demanded. His fellow servant fell to his knees and begged him, "Be patient with me, and I will pay it back." But he refused. Instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the debt. When the other servants saw what had happened, they were outraged and went and told their master everything that had happened. And somebody said, "Is it 7 times?" And then Jesus replied, "No, 77 times." So, and then he gave a parable of this servant and the king, a master. And not only that servant, but the servant also seemed to be have debt with the So that servant had a debt with the master, and then there was a servant who had a debt with this servant, who, if I don't know how to call it, servant A and servant B. So servant A had a debt with the master, and then the servant B had a debt with the servant A. And we see what happened in that story. So Gregory, yes, are we meant to? We're talking about unconditional love, and we said there's condition. Love should not be unconditional; it should be conditional. So, forgiveness. Should we always forgive, or should it also be conditional?
The best reference one has is what Christ himself has put down in the Lord's Prayer. And in it he said, "Forgive us our trespasses, as we have forgiven those who trespass against us." Ask yourself, is that unconditional or conditional?
It's conditional. It's if you forgive, you ask for forgiveness, then you must also forgive others.
This so-called forgiveness, the way it is considered, whatever does not spring from one's intuition or from the spirit, that does not hold any lasting values. So it is not a calculation that, oh, this has to, you have to pay me this, or I've forgiven you, and yet, no. That only that which comes from the spirit and permeates one's thoughts and deeds, only that is genuine. Else it is fake.
Yes. So what you're saying there is, it must come from within your spirit. Forgiveness. Otherwise, it's not genuine. Yes. Yes. Thank you for that point. We're going to discover, go and how can I say, and look at that a bit more in a moment. Before I do that, I just want to let the listeners know that this is Bless Radio, and this is the spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight is love unconditional? Is love unconditional? If you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is blessradio1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in your questions or comments. And we are also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space Grail Message, space the topic for tonight, which is love unconditional? And after the show, which we end the show tonight 8 p.m. UK time, you can listen to a recording of this show also on YouTube. Again, you go to youtube.com, type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 there, space Grail Message, space is love unconditional? And of course, you can listen also to our recording of our previous shows on YouTube again. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/radio/bless radio 1, that's the number 1 there. Now we've just talked about forgiveness, and Gregory, you mentioned it must be forgiveness with your spirit. Let's say you can say the word heart, not like you say calculating. Okay, you've done this sin or mistake 5 times. Any more is over, whatever it over means. Out of the job, out of whatever is happening. But that's not how it's meant to be, in accordance with the, let's say, the Almighty's laws. Because if you don't forgive, you will not be forgiven. So somehow, that forgiveness must always be there. In a way, Gregory, that sounds that there is a unconditional rather than conditional when you have to you can keep forgiving. But I guess, how do we see that, Gregory? When you keep forgiving, does it just mean you have to forgiving? Does forgiveness mean like you don't have to redeem? I just want to understand that.
What has never been considered is that how does the human personality fall into that scenario where he himself have to forgive this person and forgive that person and all that. These ones now turn merely as like fantasies. For that, when forgiveness is mentioned, it is that which has come from the heart. That is basically where it comes from. In that particular scenario, you find that the environment of the individual, the um, ethereal environment of the individual changes. And that environment sort of acts like a buffer where threads which should have held it down, those threads are severely weakened, because with that individual is now able to make connection with the blessings which have been hewn into creation and make use of it to benefit himself and subsequently others. So this matter of, okay, we have to forgive 10 times or 100 times or 500 times, that is immaterial. What is key is that the individual who genuinely forgives, that individual subsequently permeates its environment, its spiritual environment, its thoughts environment, and to some extent, the environment of his deeds. It becomes lighter, and in that case is able to ascend a little higher. And many of the reciprocal activities which should have accrued for him in the past and would have dragged him down to sink into the mire, those are gradually severed. That is the picture one should see, instead of from the intellectual part where one sees all sort of confusion.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. And again, the picture you're painting for us. So it's like the principles are what are important, not this detail. Oh, he sinned 10 times. I was counting 10 times that he did 10 times. You know, it's not about the number, how many times. It's about, yes, it's his heart there that he want to redeem. He want to, like a character, change his character to do something good, rather than, you know, he did it 10 times wrong. So it means he's not reliable or not worthy of, you know, being considered to be someone to be trusted, let's say. You know, and you don't, because as we know, listeners and Gregory, we know we act according to how we think of a person, let's say. With that person, we think, oh, that person can't be relied on. So from that moment, no matter what the person says, he's unreliable. So no more any other expectation will happen. So you could say we get prejudices developed from this, and then we live on act according to those prejudices. You know, judging, you can say, becoming the judge. So thank you for that. Now, but let's say something else you could say relating to forgiveness. You know, let's say up to now we were considering things which, let's say, we can find on a daily basis with our interaction with our fellow mankind. But there are some occasions where some serious, let me call, crimes or sins have been committed, and when you are the victim or related to the victim, then it's hard to forgive. So I'm going to give a scenario of that. So let's say someone has murdered somebody close to you that you love, and that person who is the murderer has been caught and put into jail, and let's say they have to serve life sentence. And sometimes the question arises, so the murderer is now serving a life sentence in the jail, like I say. So he's getting, in quotes, his justice from that. However, the relative or someone, the person who was murdered, let's say you're related to that person and maybe very closely, and you are suffering the loss of that, that person who's been murdered, and somehow you're not able, whether it's out of revenge or even hatred of that murderer, that you can't forgive that murderer. So or somehow, so that's so I'm giving it like a not extreme case, but something, let's say, very serious scenario case there. And my question on that, Gregory, is, should we forgive? We talked about the forgiving. Let's say somebody wrong you, and you forgive them, and you can forgive them like unconditionally in a way there, in meaning that unlimited. That means I say unconditionally. You don't count how many times you forgive that person. When it comes to something serious crime like murder, how can one forgive? With a clean heart, because we said also with a clean heart, with a pure heart, the forgiveness must be that way. But some people might find it very difficult to forgive this murderer, even they know that the person is in the jail for life. So, how can one? Can one always forgive, Gregory?
One's reference to this must be very clear. Saul, who later on became Paul, he was present at the death of Stephen. And what did Stephen say when he was being stoned to death? He pleaded with the light such that this sin which they were committing to be forgiven. That is Stephen. So, for many who now take to Saul or take to Paul, only through his personal experiences did he come to realize what the effects of its activities, his personal activities, on the simple Christians who did nothing wrong to him. So many need to reread the Bible again and again. And in understanding of the strengths or weaknesses of people, of one's neighbors, in that lies the forgiveness. It lies in forgiveness because the individual who now understands, who comprehends deeply the strengths and weaknesses of his neighbor, that individual becomes vigilant, becomes alert, so as to manage the scenario to prevent his or her neighbor from such dastardly acts. Therein lies forgiveness. So, if one asks, should I forgive my neighbor, is very clear. Do as they wish to do. They should make that decision. No one can advise you to forgive or not to forgive. Even when you have been given that prayer, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. These are so clear, so lucid, that there is no need for further investigation. For in the process of genuine forgiveness, the individual provides an opportunity for the other to reform itself, to be able to work effectively subsequently. And in doing that for another, just as you in your prayers, genuine prayers, not the rattled off prayers, so-called, in deep within yourself, wishing and longing that an opportunity will be granted to your neighbor so that he or she will come to understand things of a finer nature. Just as you yourself are doing that, so also are those who are higher up in the chain leading to the light. So also do they prepare to pass more to you, because you now understand the scenarios. That means he or she who had now made provision within himself or herself will receive of the further blessings. These things are so comprehensive and not intellectual. They are not one-sided, as many do when they do calculations. Unless you give me this one will not happen. No, that which refers to life is more dynamic than the rigidity that many have brought in their activities.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for clarifying and showing us really the real love, the concept of love and forgiveness. What you can say, it is like an eternal value. You never stop loving or forgiving, but and it covers every area of life. Oh, not one sin, yes, I will forgive. That sin, no, I will not forgive. No. Forgive means, it didn't say forgive one sin or that sin. It just said forgive. And love didn't say love this one and not that one. It just said love. In fact, Gregory, love, it doesn't mean you have to like the person. You can love everyone. Say all for one and one for all. It doesn't mean that you will like every person that you ever meet. Most unlikely, that will be the reality. But it doesn't mean you cannot show love. So that's the lesson, you can say, we are meant to learn in this life. So thank you for that. Now, just thinking if there's any other example that we can, when I started the show, Gregory, I was talking about divine love or God's love, and then human love and animal love. In all of these three, we discovered that the love is conditional in all three. not unconditional in any of such scenarios or such things. But there is something in us, within us, which tell us, oh, the divine love is higher than the human, and the human in way is higher than the animal's love, although it may not look like it in real life, because we humans seem to go astray much more than if an animal seems to go astray. So let me think the question I should ask on that. Gregory, yes. Let's talk. You know, there is a judgment which we have been told is coming, and which will be like your last chance to, in quotes, redeem yourself and save yourself. So, where does that judgment fit in with the love and forgiveness? When we say we must always can be forgiven. When we think of the judgment, the last judgment, the final judgment, it seems that at this judgment point, there isn't any more chance for forgiveness. Then it says that there's a time that we must, you could say, redeem ourselves. So can you tell us how that fits in with the love of the Almighty? The judgment fits with the love of the Almighty.
You have the scenario which you are mentioning, in which that which the human personality has cultivated in creation, the seeds have now ripened such that they will be returned to them. If the seeds are beautiful and noble, it is those fruits that have ripened for them that they will experience. That is fairness. That is justice. If, however, the fruits which have accrued in their activities in creation to that point in which the last judgment steps in, if those seeds are bitter and they are ignoble, if that is what has matured for them, in all naturalness and fairness, in justice, they themselves will receive that because they have planted that. No doubt about that. However, if along the line, before that which has ripened for them, before it reaches them, if they have made changes to themselves, if they have improved their environment, first by improving themselves, therefore their radiation is so pure, when these waves arrive to have an impact on the individual, because their environment is much brighter, you will find that these waves will bounce off the individual. Again, that is fairness, that is justice. If, however, they have not changed in their inner attitude, then you will find that which they themselves have given rise to, the seeds which have matured, have now returned to them, they will now experience it. If they are unable to survive of the consequences of that which they have put in creation, and they themselves have not changed, then the experiences will be so harrowing that they may lose their self-consciousness. Again, this is perfectly natural and just.
Thank you, Gregory, for that explanation about the judgment and love. Now we've reached the end of our show tonight on the topic of, is love unconditional? And I hope you enjoyed the discussion and found it interesting. So now I'd like to end by reading from the Grail Message, which is the foreword of the Grail Message, which is titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Apprushin. Dear listeners, if you want to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, message, message.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a very beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same for me, listeners. Have a beautiful week ahead. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time, with another topic. Good night. Take care.